right, guys, here we go. The off season is over. We're about to start the Gridiron 7-on-7 League, year number 9. Most anticipated 7-on-7 season we've had in years. Each and every year, it's bigger, better than ever. So the way we always start this thing, I'm Tone Colston. This is your Gridiron Report. This is your preseason Gridiron Report. So this first episode, we're going to talk about a few things. Teams from the past, players from the past, and all that good stuff. One of the most important and most fun things we do in the Gridiron 7-on-7 League is our stats and our standings, and we keep up and track everything that we can when it comes to the numbers. So what I want to do today, before we start talking about this upcoming season, is let's talk about some of the past teams, some of the past players, and kind of show you my database. I keep this thing, and I can't keep it all to myself, right? There's no use in having all this information and not at least putting it out there and giving other guys and teams. I know you don't really get much out of it for being the best or whatever, but sometimes it's fun just being the best. No matter what it is, in season, out of season, off season, camps, training, whatever. When it comes time to compete, people like to be able to know and tell, what they've done and how they did it. So, one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to get into some of our top teams from the past, top organizations that have played through the Gridiron League over the past 8 years, and just talk about them a little bit and just let you know who they are and if they're still participating with us and how it all went down. So let's check it out. So this first one right here just is really all divisions, high school, varsity, youth, put together, all the top programs that have really been committed the longest and have played the most games with us throughout the years. As you can see, Goon Squad, is the number one team in our league. They played in years 19, 20, 21. They missed 2022, 23, 24, and 25. They played a total of 151 games with us over the years. You got the Cougars, which is Campbell County. They've got 113 games. You got Code Blue, which is Anderson County. They played 107. You got the Wolfpack, good representation of Chattanooga. They're still playing with us this upcoming year. They got 92 games in. Seymour's played 92 games. The Crushers have played 88, which is the Rebels, West Rebels, basically. The Rising Stars, they've been with us for a long, long time. They've got 86 games in. You got the Clinton Dragons with 85. You got the Orange Crush, which is a William Blunt group. They've got 82 games. And you got Gunslinger. We got 80 games in 2021. I kind of quit coaching teams, to kind of run the league. But I'll have me a rookies team to add a few games into this for this upcoming season I'm looking forward to. As we move on, we're going to move into the most wins of teams in all divisions. And, Goon Squad, they've played the most games with us over the years. They've got the most wins. They've got 87 wins. We've got, this is our top 10, really. You got the Cougars have 66, Code Blue 54, Wolfpack 54, Bearden 48. Rising Stars and Dragons both with 44. You got Gunslinger with 41, Orange Crush with 38, and the Cherokees should have an S on that. South Doyle, they've got 37. So they've had, this is our top 10 programs, teams from all divisions combined together, just how many games they've won. So, keep up with this stuff. It's kind of fun. We're going to get over here, move on into the high school division. The most wins, teams that have gotten at least 12 wins plus in the high school division in an individual season. We got Asheville Extreme, we got the Upper Cumberland Cyclones, and Team Venom, all with 13 wins, leading the way. You got Tri-State Supreme, a team from Upper East Tennessee area, had a great season one year. Big battle, with a red zone team that's probably one of the best teams we've ever had in the league. You got Bearden Cougars. Cougars had two back-to-back seasons with 12 wins. The Admirals went 12-4 in 2021. 2021 was a fun season. The Admirals had a great team out there. Hadn't really had any Farragut teams over the years. One thing I did add in here was points differential. I won't do this on all the teams, but I had to talk about it because the best team that's ever played in our league, I truly believe could beat anybody. It was Red Zone. Red Zone went 10-1 back in 2019. We had a little shortened season, on games or whatnot, but they had a 255-point differential. There's not another team that's ever played in the league that had a 255-point differential, especially with 11 games. They scored 341 points and gave up 86. You know, that team was led by Dakota Favre, back-to-back state champion out of Central High School. It was more of a Central Fulton group. His dad, Rick Favre, coached the team. You know, they were probably one of the original 7-on-7 teams back in the day. You know, travel teams, and it was probably one of the best. You know, they actually qualified for some big-time national tournaments and placed really well in those teams. You know, but just had to talk about them because they didn't have the most wins, but they were really, you know, one of the best teams we've ever seen come through the league over the years. As we move on into our varsity division, you know, we've got Team Up Gray, went 12-1, won the championship back in 2022. Betsy Built was a team from up in the Upper East Tennessee area. You know, they're one of the few teams that actually finished the season 11-0, or undefeated, and ended up winning the championship back in 2021. You got Marble City, which was a West team that went 11-2. You got Team Mojo, which was another Upper East Tennessee team that went 11-5. You got the Patriots, went 11-6. The Underdogs, 10-5. You know, you got a handful of teams that had 9 wins. You got, you know, Code Blue, Rebels, Smash, Warriors, Cougars did it again 2 times in a row. You know, all those teams, you know, the varsity teams, you know, put up some good seasons over the years. You know, we get over here to our JV program. You know, we've got our top teams with 10+ wins. We got Team Primetime with 15-3. Rising Stars went 13-3. Our 2021, this was a huge battle. The Stars went out of town for a week on a tournament, but probably would have had just as many wins. But I think, you know, they battled back and forth, you know, throughout the season. For that championship, we got the Underdogs, went 13-0, so the only JV team to go through, you know, the season and go undefeated. Also, that's kind of a Maryville team. You got Young Guns, went 13-4. You got Bearden, 12-6. Underrated, which is a team that started with us last year, went 12-3. You got Team Lions, one of our old school teams that went 11-8 from an Upper East Tennessee area. You also got East Tennessee Wolfpack last year, 11-4. And then we got Primetime and Goon Squad finished with 10 wins. Moving on into the youth division, you know, this division's only two years going. You know, we got our top 5 teams. You know, we got Team Rise finished 10-2 last season, won the championship, I believe, had a great year. You know, in 2024, we had Goon Squad had 9 wins. You had the Vipers; they had a big battle. Vipers went 9-1. Pulled that championship out, I believe, that year. And then, you know, last year we had the Kentucky Raptors and TD Factory, you know, pulling out 9 wins. So over the years, we've had, you know, around 95, 96 different programs play in the Gridiron 7-on-7 League. And I don't know if there's a league in the country that can say that. And once we add the teams from this year, we should be well over 100 to 120 teams. So, you know, just this is some of the numbers within the teams. And, you know, we'll get back into the stats and talk about those guys in just a few minutes. All right, so we talked about some of the old teams. You know, we've had some great teams come through this thing over the years, man. Some great talent, you know, guys that went on to college. You know, some guys that didn't play college ball, but that were great high school football players in this area of Knoxville, Tennessee. You know, over the years, we've had some teams come from out of town. So, you know, that was fun kind of looking back at those guys. You know, I get on that stuff and kind of fill it out every now and then and try to organize it a little bit better. So, you know, it was fun to share with you guys just who those guys were. So if you played on some of those old teams and you're checking this out, you know, hey, you guys set the standard, man. You know, you came out, you put the time into this thing back when we were first getting started, some of you guys, and some of you parents and coaches, players, some players that played years ago that are coaching now, which is actually one of the coolest things, you know, in the Gridiron League for me, because, you know, this thing's personal. It's something I created, something I come up with, something I built, and you can't build something unless people show up, and it's not going to grow unless people treat it with respect and have integrity. So, you know, all the people from the past, you know, you're appreciated just for helping me do what we do and participate and just making this thing so much fun, man. So that's why this year we've got 60+ teams signed up this year, is because of everything you guys have done in the past and all the ways you talked about it, the positive experiences and just the fun that we have. And so now we're going to kind of talk about some of our players. You know, the stats. I told everybody this year, everybody has to keep stats this year. You don't keep stats this year, you're not going to play in the playoffs. Okay, so you can play in the league or whatever, but if you don't take care of your stats and standings, because it's the biggest thing that we do, and I put the most time into it, then you're not going to be in the playoffs this year. So we had some teams do it last year, so I think this will be an incentive to, hey, get a team mom, team dad, coach, somebody that wants to just take care of your stats and standings and plug them into our Google Sheet. I've tried to make it as easy and simple as possible, and then let me talk about you and talk about your players. But let's move into our top players that have really ever played in the Gridiron 7-on-7 League. We're going to get started off. We're going to start with our quarterbacks, the guys that have thrown the most touchdowns in a career over all the years that they played in the 7-on-7 League. We got a handful of guys, and this is our list of guys that have thrown 75-plus touchdowns throughout the years. Sitting at the top, we've got a guy named Hunter White. He was a Campbell County quarterback. All-region guy over the years, probably one of the top quarterbacks ever played over there. He's actually coaching a team now he was coaching. He coached for 2 years. Now he's actually a coach up at Campbell County on the high school team. But Hunter's thrown 147 touchdowns over the years. He leads the league, the most ever. We got a kid named Kai Beasley that's thrown 133. He went to West High School. You got Isaiah Hall, was an All-State Mr. Football finalist, probably my first quarterback client here in Knoxville, threw 121 touchdowns. You got Landon Hensley, another Cougars quarterback. The Cougars have always had great teams come through and have a solid passing game. The Price twins coach those guys. Now they're at Grace. But you got Landon Hensley had 120 touchdowns. You got Elijah Smith-Williams has 90 touchdowns. He was a quarterback at TKA back in the day. Josh Keith, former Clinton quarterback, 89 touchdowns. Kel Fleming from Grace Christian. He's at Grace Christian High School now. He's 78 touchdowns. And Briggs Cherry, I got to fix, I can't believe I misspelled that name, but it's Briggs Cherry. He's got 75 touchdowns. Big-time quarterback, one of the top 26 guys. He's committed to Louisville, played in the All-American game, quarterback Baylor High School to, I believe, the state championship this past year. So, out of that list, he's probably the most big-time guy that we've got that has come through and played as a quarterback through the league. We're going to move on through. Now we're going to look at the high school season leaders. The career is one thing. The season's kind of what everybody's shooting for this upcoming season. So we got, in the high school division, we got guys that threw for 40-plus touchdowns. Hunter has set the mark for a season at 58 touchdowns. You got Colin Trent back in the day at 2018 sitting there at 48 touchdowns. Landon Hensley, 48. Caden Engel, 48. So we got a three-way tie at second. We got Noah Potter from the Upper Cumberland Cyclones, 44, Isaiah Hall, 43, and Dakota Fawver at 40. He was the quarterback for that red zone team, and when you look at touchdowns per game, he leads it all with 3.64 touchdowns per game. I think that's the highest of any quarterback in any of these divisions. When we move over our varsity season leaders, we've got guys that have thrown 38-plus touchdowns. There's not very many. We got Blaine Stansberry, had a big season, former just graduated quarterback at Oak Ridge High School. I think he's broken most of the records at Oak Ridge High School. He was one of my clients I trained him from 4th and 5th grade all the way to 9th and 10th grade. Then you got Cruz Cunningham with 44. You got Kai Beasley with 40. Elijah Smith-Williams and Briggs Cherry with 38. Those guys round out the top quarterbacks that ever played in our varsity division. You move on over to our JV division. We've got guys with 33-plus touchdowns. There's only 4. These 4 guys were really elite during this thing. The number 1 and number 2 guys, 2021. Actually, number 4 is 2021 also. We had a huge race that year between the Rising Stars and Primetime. Had a great season. Brody Sparks, I think, actually just transferred to Oak Ridge to take over for Stansberry, but he threw 42 touchdowns to set himself as number 1, and tied for number 1. Colton Faust had 42 touchdowns also. So that was a great season. It was fun to keep up with that. They were going back and forth, battling it out. You got Gavin Robinson, that is a Orange Crush, William Blunt kid. He played quarterback early on in this division in the league with 38 touchdowns. And you got Colton Smith from Team Lions with 33 touchdowns. Then we move on over to our youth division. We really don't have a bunch of kids yet with that, but we're going to go 10-plus touchdowns on that and just talk about these guys. This is our second year in the youth division, so we've got a few. We've got, one, Tucker Garner with the Vipers. They had a great season, won the championship, I think lost 1 game. that season. But he set the standard, 27 touchdowns. You got another kid, Casey Harrell from Kentucky Raptors. They've come down and played a couple seasons. They're coming back this year, so excited to see them again. But Casey Harrell's got 24 touchdowns. Hudson Howard from Team Rise has 22 touchdowns. Casey Harrell again the previous year in 2024 with 18 touchdowns. And then you got Maurice Garner, 14 touchdowns from Goon Squad, and Jasper Diggs with 10 with the Ball Hawks. So, a lot of gunslingers with some big-time stats. Let's talk about the go-getters and the receivers that went and caught most of the touchdowns for these guys. When it comes to receiving touchdowns in a career, I think this might be the one record that may be unbreakable in the league. But you never know. These guys may keep playing for years. We got a couple guys that still have some years left. But, we got Devin Jones from the Cougars, 62 touchdowns in 3 seasons. He was Hunter White's number 1 target, and he caught the ball quite a bit, as you can tell. We also got Jordan Hayes, a West Rebels kid. He got 41 touchdowns. Peyton McKinney from Coalfield had 34. Mason Shanks, another Cougars receiver, had 33 touchdowns. Jeremiah Smith from South Dual, 32 touchdowns, and Blake Overton with 31 touchdowns from Jefferson County. So those are our top receivers in a career with 30-plus touchdowns. We'll move on over to our high school guys for a season. So our high school guys for a season, we've got guys with 15-plus touchdowns. You got Devin Jones, 2 seasons in a row, 29 touchdowns, 25 touchdowns. You got Gavin Owens, another Cougars guy in 2023, had 19 touchdowns. Aiden Telfer with William Blunt, 17 touchdowns. Deshaun Bishop, of course, ran for 1,000 yards, thousands of yards as a running back, and now playing for Tennessee, but he had 16 touchdowns for Carnes back in 2022. Clinton kid Nigel Lee had 15, and another Zach Brady, I believe he's another Campbell County kid, had 15 touchdowns also in the high school division. We move over our varsity division. We've got guys with 17-plus touchdowns. There's only a handful of them. The varsity division, you only normally get 1, maybe 2 seasons in the varsity division, and these guys are all 1 year and dones and moving on to the high school division after that. But Dylan King, Seymour, this is a team I actually coached, and Dylan was my favorite guy to get the ball to, had 22 touchdowns. Riley Wolfenbarger, Anderson County kid, had 18 touchdowns. You got Torrey Beaufort for the Goon Squad, which is actually balling out right now at Maryville. I saw that's where he ended up at, 17 touchdowns. And you got Jordan Hayes, which was a West kid, with 17 touchdowns also. In our JV division, we've got guys that have 11-plus touchdowns, guys that caught more than 10, basically. So you got Tyler Tummins, kid that graduated as a Bearden kid. He's got 15 touchdowns, leading the way. You got Boone McCamus. He was a big-time player for Gibbs back in the day. He graduated a couple years ago, but he had 14 touchdowns. You got White Howard, 12 touchdowns from Bearden. You got Ben Hamilton with 12 touchdowns, played for the Chiefs. You got Tyson Dorsey, Jason Bourne, and Graham Atkins, all with 11 touchdowns, rounding out the JV division leaders. When we move over to our youth guys, like I said, we don't have a lot of stats for these guys, so we went anybody that had over 5 touchdowns so far. Last year, Team Rise, Cruz Schuler set the standard for the youth division. They won the championship. He had 13 touchdowns, one player of the week almost every week. You had another kid that had a big-time season in 2024, Christian Neal and Christian Frazier. Both those kids had 8 touchdowns back in 2024. You got Colton Ferris with 7, and then you got Maverick Jones and Kai French from the Kentucky Raptors, finishing off with 6. We've had some big-time receivers over the years. It's been fun watching those guys. I'm an offensive guy, but let's move over to the defensive side and see who's had the most interceptions throughout their playing in the Gridiron League. When it comes to ball hawks throughout the Gridiron League over the years, we've got a handful of guys that have led the way. This is our top guys for a career that have 10-plus interceptions. Jeremiah Smith played for the Goon Squad and South Dual Cherokees. He leads the whole way with 20 interceptions. You got Blake Overton with 15 interceptions. Jace Hawkins with 14. Marcus Brown with 13. Boone McCamus with 12. Probably one of the best all-around defensive seasons ever in the Gridiron League was a 2021 season. Nathaniel Thomas was playing midfield, center fielder, and pulled out 12 interceptions with the Rebels. Just in one season, has got him up there in the leaders. You got Gavin Robinson with 11. And then you got Micah Jones also had a great season. You know, Micah's the running back at Alcoa right now. That kid's got, 4 touchdowns in the state championship game, big time player. But man, when he came to Tennessee and just moved in, he played for the team called the Avengers, which is kind of a Maryville, Alcoa area team. And he was quarterback and playing center field also. And he's rounded himself out to 11 interceptions in one season. And we also have Crew Schuler with 10 interceptions, kind of round out the career guys. But for the season, we've got our high school guys. We've got basically we're going really with 5 interceptions or more. It's tough to get interceptions in 7-on-7. We've added our little pressure package, which is kind of forced guys to throw a few more just with hands in their face and a little pressure thrown on the run. But we've got 5 or 6 guys right here. We've got Ethan Miller. We got Case and Brock. Both those guys tied for first place with 7 interceptions in the season. We got Blake Overton did it back-to-back seasons with 6 interceptions. You got Clifton Maxwell with 5, Bryson Quick, and Brandon Phelan with 5 in the high school division. Kind of rounding out that little group. When you get down to the varsity division, same deal. We've got 5 guys with 5+ interceptions. Nathaniel Thomas, like I said, 12 interceptions in one season. That's going to be a tough record to break, but I guess it's possible. Trey Jefferson with 7 interceptions. Landry Gann with 7 interceptions. Jaden Bolin with 5, and Griffin Mashburn with 5, rounding out that varsity division. In the JV division, like I said, Micah Jones had a big season that one year, but we've got quite a few guys, right there next to it. But we're going to go 7+ interceptions in this division. You got Micah Jones with 11 leading the way. You got Boone McCamus, Marcus Brown, and Jeremiah Smith all tied for second place with 9. Elijah Sadler with 8 interceptions. Then you got Garrett King and Brandon Fears sitting there with 7, and then we have a number of guys with 6 interceptions. So moving on over to our youth guys, we have a handful of guys with 5+ interceptions. We have one guy sitting at the top leaderboard, Jace Hawkins. I think he was, the past 2 seasons he's been Ball Hawk of the Year for the youth division. Jace got 8 interceptions last year, 6 interceptions the year before. Crew Schuler, another kid we've been talking about, he's got 5 interceptions last year. And Aries Johnson from SOP Boys got 5 interceptions last year. So, that kind of rounds out our interceptions, our defensive players on stats. Last year was our first year keeping stats for our sacks. So we'll just go with, top players per division, looking at our sack records. In our first year, it's keeping up with our sack stats. We got a handful of guys that made big plays, and it's a good position to play in this league because some of the guys, the teams that had the most sacks generally were the better teams. They got the most stops and were able to put the best pressure on the quarterback. So high school division, we have 3 guys with 3+ sacks. We got Cherokee's Ramillion Crenshaw with 9 sacks, led the league. You got Kentucky Raptors Trip Fields with 5. And you got Orange Crush's Isaiah Simmons with 3. For the varsity division, we move over. We got guys with 4+ sacks. You got Landry Gann with Team We Grind with 7 sacks. You got Jaden Bolin with 5 sacks from East Tennessee Wolfpack. You got the Underdogs Davis Krim with 4, and East Tennessee Wolfpack's Owen Knight with 4. On our JV division, which is our career leader as of right now. I don't know if Nick's playing this year, but if he is, he'll get to add to his numbers. But our JV division, we've got 3 guys with 5+ sacks. You got the Bobcats, Nick Fincham with 11. You got Dot City's Robert Mantooth with 8. And the Bobcats also had another guy, Marshall Eskridge, with 5 sacks. So our youth division, we really didn't do much of the rush, so that nobody really got any sacks in that youth division. So we'll just keep it moving, and that's our stats for our career and our season leaders. All right, so we went through the numbers. Everybody kind of sees how things have panned out over the years. Each season, depending on the weather, it's kind of a give or take, man. Sometimes we get the full 18 games, 15 games. Normally it's we missed a week on the snow day, but teams are gonna get those 15 games in to put the stats and numbers up. It's always fun looking back at those names because some of those guys, that were some of the best quarterbacks and receivers, DBs in our league are now coaches in the league. And like I said, that's actually really cool to be able to keep those relationships and have those guys come back and actually have desire to, hey, coach, I'm getting a team for the league this year. And I'm like, heck yeah, man, get it in. Let's go. I'll take care of you. So, we went through the numbers. We went through the teams. Let's move on. We're looking at week 1. All right, we're getting started this Sunday, February 8th, week 1 of the 2026 Gridiron 7-on-7 League. This season's big, and it's big just because of numbers. We've had so many teams. We had 38 teams, 39 teams last year, kind of held between 35 and 40 the past 3 seasons because we've lost some guys and this and that back and forth. But this year, we're at 60-plus teams, the biggest league we've ever had. Y'all have driven me nuts on these waivers and rosters, but guess what? Everybody's got them in. So it's time to play football, and it's time to have some fun with it. We got a couple things going on this year. Each year we try to add something new to the league. Last couple years we've added our rush, which has been part of, I think really developing our quarterbacks because I coached high school football offensive coordinator for 13 years over the years, and I'm friends with most of the high school coaches in the area. And every coach I talk to always says, I like 7-on-7, man, my quarterback's just not getting the work. So everybody that played in the league the past couple years, we've added this additional rush package. And I believe more than anything that it's actually helping our quarterbacks push themselves into some drops, start having to get the ball out quicker. And it's getting some pressure on them, getting some hands in their face and getting them throwing on the run, just like on Friday nights, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all through the week, for our youth guys all the way up. When I talk about the rush package, our young guys will not start with the rush package this year. We always do this. We let so the first things first, we've got a new division this year. We added the 4th and 5th grade division 2 seasons ago. Started off, I think we had 5-7 teams to get it started. Last year we had about 10 or 11. I think this year we're up to close to 17, 12 to 15 teams, something like that. We got about 15 teams in that 4th and 5th grade division. So the division has grown. We got a lot of great teams, a lot of teams coming back from last year. And this year, this past fall, I coached my son at Concord Christian in 2nd grade flag football. And it was the most stressful coaching job I've ever had in my life. But it was one of the most rewarding. It was fun. I had a blast teaching kids that really never played football, how to run the ball, how to throw the ball, how to scheme a little bit. We got creative and ran some plays and got tricky a little bit here and there, but they learned, and it was a blast. All the kids in that league had a good time. So I told myself, heck, if they can do what they did during the fall, I believe we can transition these kids into the 7-on-7 league and teach them even more, give them a second season, and just let them develop and develop their passion for the game. So this year, we've added a 2nd, 3rd grade division we're calling the rookie division. I text the coaches and let them know, but our rookie division will be played a little differently than our older divisions just because of what we have with 2nd and 3rd graders, but we'll condense the field a little bit, add a few other rules to make it where they can be successful and still have fun and compete. So, so our young divisions, our 2nd, 3rd grade division, we will not have a rush this year. But 4th and 5th, 6th and 7th, generally the way we start the season is the first half of the season, there's no rush. Second half of the season, we give them the pressure and the rush. So, we let them learn the game, get in, learn how to throw and pass and catch and do all those things, get solid at it, playing defense, and then we add the pressure. Our older divisions, 8th and 9th grade division, high school divisions, it's week 1 on, all the way through. You guys should be able to handle it. You guys should be ready for it. And it just adds another level to the game. So, this year, that's kind of just what we've got, our added details to it. So moving on into the teams, the players that are playing in this upcoming season, we've got quite a few teams in each age division. So just like I normally do in the high school division, we're going to split our divisions in 2, create a gunslinger division, a gridiron division. It just makes it easier for scheduling, to be honest with you. So I have groups of teams I can pit together and play, and then we'll cross play them and all that good stuff. The best thing about the league is, I try to play everybody versus everybody. You're going to get a chance sometime during the season. May not be week 1. I know some guys already text me, hey, coach, I want this matchup and that match. Listen, I do the games. Definitely week 1 is kind of a random number deal. I did the divisions kind of a random number. I use a random number app, and I just kind of hit it, 1 to 16 on 16 teams, and boom, boom, bam. And we just put teams, boom, left, right, left, right, left, right. And over the years, it's panned out pretty good to where each division's fairly competitive. There's a couple teams at the top, of course, on each division. And then we have the middle teams, and then we have some guys at the bottom. So week 1, we've got 2 locations that we've been rocking the past couple years. Both coaching staffs and schools have been super, hospitable over the past couple years. Anderson County High School. I've been doing the Gridiron League there since 2019. We skipped a year or two, and then we've been back at it for the past couple years. So Coach Gillum and Gary Terry have done a good job just letting us come out there and play. They bring their teams out and compete, and we rock and roll it, man, and have a blast. We also at Clinton High School. I'm a former Clinton Dragon, so it's always appreciative for those guys to open their doors to me to come out there and do play on their football field too. It's kind of fun when I get out there. I start having some memories of the touchdowns I threw and ran out there and the games we've won. But I appreciate the new coach. We got Jake Dawson, his first year coach out there at Clinton High School. Appreciate him and Mr. Reed. Keep setting this up. And when you get new faces, you never know exactly how things are going to go. But, those guys have been super hospitable to also, we've got the Gunslinger Quarterback Academy. We do our training at the indoor facility, and we will be on the high school football fields, this weekend. So this weekend we got Anderson County and Clinton. The following weekends, we'll probably add another location to kind of split things up a little bit more, shrink our days down. The referees don't want to be out there till, 6 or 7 o'clock at night. So we'll have 3 locations. Try to get everybody on turf. This week we've got 2 turf fields. 2 games will be turf at Clinton. We'll have 2 games at turf at Anderson County. Then we'll have 2 grass fields on the upper field. So when you see the schedule, field 1 and 2 is the turf field at Anderson County. And then fields 3 and 4, the upper fields by the baseball stadium, is 2 grass fields up on the top of the field. So don't be frustrated if you get all your games on grass this week, or maybe you get lucky and get all the turf games this weekend. Eventually, it's going to play itself out, and you'll be on turf, and I'll mix and match it and make sure we, do that. I'm going to look out for you. So don't be frustrated this year and be texting, hey, coach, we ever going to get on the You'll be on the turf, baby. I promise. I'll look out and make sure that happens. All right, so last couple things I want to cover on this episode. I hope you're still here. I hope you're still listening. It's just kind of how we play our games, the structure, the organization. This is what keeps us rolling. This is what keeps us growing. It is just how we do things. So on game day, all right, coaches, players only down on the field area and on the track area. All right, we'll have it marked, but I know everybody kind of sees it sometimes and thinks, oh, this is just 7-on-7. We're going to go. You're not going to go everywhere you want. You're going to get in the stands if you're a fan or a parent. So if you're a fan or a parent, go sit in the stands, get comfortable, bring some comfortable chairs. If you're going to be on the concrete, if your team's playing in the grass, bring you some of those really cool chairs I see out there that I didn't have whenever I was coaching the flag league. I go out there and they got chairs that rock, and they got the hydraulic stuff on. Hey, get you some good chairs. Come out, post up. Enjoy watching your kids, but don't come down on the fields. Let the coaches coach, let the players play, let the referees ref. All right? That's the way it's going to be at both locations. It's a little bit easier at Clinton because you just come in. At Clinton High School, everybody's going to sit at the home side stands. Okay? We're not going to sit in the visitor stands. If you go sit in the visitor stands, you're going to have my buddy David Riggs is going to be there. He'll probably come over there and say, hey, I'd like you to move over and we want you in one spot, mainly because last year and the years before, we've had trouble keeping up the trash. I've become a trash man over the years, and, it's kind of frustrating. But, hey, it is what it is. We got a lot of people out there. We'll deal with it how we go. But we're going to sit on the home side, not the visitor side or in the student section side. Bathrooms at Clinton High School. Only by the concession stand will you use bathrooms. I'm going to have it marked off, but people always want to go through the little tape and go, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? Let's. I don't care if you're a kid or a parent, go to the obligated bathrooms, because I pay people to clean the bathrooms, and we don't have to clean all these bathrooms. And the bathrooms under the end zone locker rooms are winterized right now, so they're not going to flush. All right, so don't go in there and do your business and have somebody else have to come clean your business up. Okay, so help us out there. So up at Anderson County, same thing. We'll have the bathrooms down on the turf area unlocked. Concessions will be open at Clinton, and at Anderson County we'll have the concession stand up behind the press box open. That's a better location, so both fields can kind of get to it. So it'll be up on top if you're down on the turf, or it'll be over on the side if you're over on the grass. Just kind of put it in the middle. So go, get your hot chocolate, chips, candy, pizza, whatever they bring out there, on that end. So when it comes to the way we play the game, all right, this is the one thing that differentiates the Gridiron League from probably every organization that does 7-on-7 in the country. A few people have started doing it. We've been doing it since, at least, for the past 5 or 6 years. Once we realized, how people want to come in and how they want to act. This is not the 7-on-7 you see on social media. This isn't all the extra unsportsmanlike stuff, all the crazy stuff, all the fighting. We're not dealing with it. We have zero tolerance for the extracurricular stuff. Unless you want to dance and have fun. And we can let you do that all day. You might even make the highlight tape. That's one thing. I pay a couple guys to come out, and make highlights of the week. Your team may not make the highlight reel, and that, I don't pay them to get every team's highlights. But one thing you can do, if you see the highlights and think, man, I'd like my team to get some highlights, and you don't have somebody that can do it for you, hit me up, let me know. I'll reach out to those guys. They'll contact you, and you can pay them to follow your team around for your 2 to 3 games on the weekend. They'll make your team a personal highlight film. They're really good at it, and and me being able to distribute teams to them helps them create a little income on the weekends, and they do a great job. So we do the highlights, but the gameplay is the most important part. If you're a parent, or a player or a coach right now, here's the thing we don't want. Okay, first thing I'm going to say, referees. Man, they show up. It's hard to get these guys, okay? So these guys, most of these referees that are coming out, they've been out here for years. They've come, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, some of them. They keep showing up. They keep showing up because they enjoy ref and they enjoy being around the kids, and they just enjoy the game of football. And some of them, I kind of would like to think they kind of like me just a little bit and like helping me do what I do with the Gridiron League. So, now here's the deal. They're not perfect. They're all TSSAA referees, so I try to get the best I can get. They're going to miss some calls, all right? They're going to miss some calls that everybody sees from the angle you have, and they're going to have a bad angle, and they're just going to miss it. And guess what? It's never going to be changed. It's never changed on Friday night, Saturdays, or Sundays. Now, I know when you get the instant replay, we don't have the red flag out there with instant replay, but, calls aren't going to get changed. So, get frustrated if you want, but just calm down, relax, and let's move on to the next play. Let's be a quarterback on this thing. Sometimes bad things happen, but you got to play the rest of the game. So parents, you can yell from the stands if you want. That's fine. Coaches, we get down on the sideline, we start giving all that extracurricular. I've hired some officers over the past few years. There'll be one officer on each field. It's not all me anymore. I'm tired of playing security. If you get out of hand, our referees are just going to ask the officer to ask you to leave, all right? Because it is what it is. We just got to respect it. We got to keep it rolling. We don't need any of the extra stuff. You know what I mean? So when it comes to our gameplay with our players, we put some rules in over the past few years. Get in our rule book. If you miss the coaches meeting and you come out there and start arguing rules that are in the rule book, we're just going to be like, hey, listen, should have made the coaches meeting, read the rule book, be quiet, let's keep it rolling. But some of the major rules that we have in the Gridiron 7-on-7 League is we do not press coverage. All right, you can get up tight within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage of the other guy, but we're not putting hands and trying to impede and jam them at the line of scrimmage. And now I understand everybody says, oh, well, that's not football. Well, here's the deal. When you watch real football, nobody holds a guy up at the line of scrimmage, throws him on the ground, or pushes him in the backfield. Generally, that's a flag. All right, and the one thing I've learned over the years is the third play of press coverage is always a fight. All right, the first play, the defender gets it. The second play, the offensive guy comes out and he's ready. The third play, they're both ready and they're ready to scrap. So we've eliminated that. And I tell you, we play 60, 80, sometimes 90 games on a weekend, and we hardly ever have any ordeals between the players because we've eliminated that one aspect of the game. All right, so the next aspect of the game that we've really eliminated over the years is just the unsportsmanlike stuff. We want to treat this like Friday nights, all right? Sooner or later, your youth football players are going to be playing Friday night football. Maybe they'll get to play on Saturdays or Sundays, who knows, but they're pretty sure going to be on a team on Friday. And on Fridays, they've gotten a little bit lenient with celebrations, which we'll let teams celebrate. You want to dance, you want to come up with some choreographed, dance moves or whatever you got, let's see it. You know what I mean? But we're not going to do all the head tapping. You catch a touchdown and you start head tapping the DB, we've got a rule in there where we're going to bring the touchdown back, all right? And we're going to loss it down on the offense. And if it's a third down, it'll be a turnover downs, and the defense is going to get points, all right? If you're a defender, all right, and you intercept a pass and you sling it across the field, you punt it, you throw it back at the receiver, guess what? We're going to give the ball back to the offense, and then we're going to replay the down, all right? So we've tried to eliminate all the extra stuff, man, because and now I know people like to do all that stuff. You see it on social media, but hey, that's not part of the game. That's the part of the game that creates all the obstacles of trying to finish a weekend. You see all these travel tournaments. We got one coming up this weekend. Guarantee there's going to be a fight somewhere near the championship, and they may or may not get to finish the tournament. You know, it's like that all over the country. We finish our weekends, we finish our season because we've implemented these rules, and it just is good for the game. It's about respect. Come out and compete. I was a fierce competitor back in the day. I'm cutthroat. I'm out there, crack back, and you couldn't do that back in the day. I throw the ball, run downfield, and crack back on the defensive end and talk trash or whatever. But at the end of the day, we shook hands. Good game. Keep it moving. All right. So we want your kids to be safe. We want them to have fun. We want them to compete, but we want them to do it within the rules and regulations of the game, man. And I think treating it like this, just keeps them prepared for Friday nights. And they're going to have referees out there. They're going to see them on Friday nights. So, it's hard as a referee not to create, just ideologies toward kids. So don't be the kid out in 7-on-7 that's causing issues. And then you get out there on Friday night and you get close and, heck, they just pull a flag because they know who you are. Let the referees enjoy watching you play and help them to respect your play and how you play the game. I tell you, it'll go a long way. And that's for sure. Hey, I'm going to end this. We're 3 days from week 1. The schedules went out. All right. If you're a coach, I'm going to do everything on GroupMe. I sent everybody a thing on the text earlier today just to send out. But from here on out, I'm going to try to stick with the GroupMe stuff. So you got to get on. You got to find it. If you don't have the link, hit me up. Parents, we're not going to add you to the GroupMe. Coaches will forward everything to you. Don't text during the week. I hate to say this, but don't text me during the week saying, are we going to play? Are we going to play? What's it look like? Listen, I normally don't even respond to that stuff. All right. When I get the schedules done, schedules go out normally Thursday nights. Went out about 1 o'clock this morning. All right, I got it done. Took about 2.5 hours to get the whole schedule done and situated. Send the schedule out on Thursday nights, sometimes Friday mornings, and that's how it's going to be. We have too many teams that say they can't play or can play sometimes during the week. We got teams from out of town coming in to play. They hit me up early in the week, so I got to give those guys opportunity to get on the schedule. But other than that, I'm looking forward to it. We got 2 locations: Anderson County, Clinton. 60+ teams going to be playing this weekend. Let's have some fun. Let's get after it. Let's start the season off with a bang. If you're keeping stats, get them in. When it comes to the stats, I need them in by the end of Sunday evening. All right, fill out your stat sheets. I just sent a new tutorial out that I sent out a few days ago. I sent it out again so you can get your stat keepers to watch it. The Google Sheet, I'm going to work on for hours tonight. Get every team a Google Sheet. I'll send that out also. If you got multiple teams, make sure you put the right stats on your correct team. If you got a varsity team, don't put the high school stats on the varsity and the varsity stats on the high school. Make sure you read which sheet it is, get it right, do your thing, and other than that, let's have a blast. Week 1, let's get it started off with a bang, and then let's go watch the Super Bowl and have some fun. So, guys, I'm Tone Colston. This is the Gridiron Preseason Report. I'll see you guys Sunday, ready to roll.